What up, brothers? Welcome back to Throwin Hands. This is the second iteration of Matchup Mayhem. The first one we did, just tons of matchups. There was no fight card, but there's a fight card this week, but it's not great, so we're not going to bore you. This is far more exciting. Wouldn't you agree, Toby?
Yeah, sorry, I just ate a clementine, but
That's cool.
yes, I will say on this weekend's card there are some bangers. Like the
Yeah,
main
we'll
event is
talk
very
about it.
cool. The fight that stands out to me though is Adrian Yanez and Jonathan Martinez.
Great.
Incredible fight. By the way, it is Yanez. Apparently, that's
Uh-huh.
how he wants to be called. So being respectful, but yes, 294 was shaken up, and I'd say it took a turn for the better. Oh,
I
much better.
100% agree. And we'll get to Yanez and Martinez and Yusuf and Barboza in a minute, but that we have far more pertinent things to talk about. So, in case you haven't heard, if you've been living under a rock for a bit, I know Toby and I are getting to this late, but should we start with the co-main and the main? Because both are equally as big shakeups, I think.
Let's start with the co-main. We'll
Oh,
build
yeah, let's
up to
start
the
with the
main
co.
event.
So, it was originally slated to be Hamzat Shemaev moving up to middleweight to fight Paulo Costa. But Paulo had a staph infection, which he tried to get surgically removed 3 weeks ago. They didn't get it all, so it came back, and he had to get it surgically removed again, I believe, Wednesday. So he had to pull out. So who's the replacement? Kamaru Usman, the Nigerian Nightmare, moving up to middleweight. And whoever wins this fight between Shemaev and Usman gets a title, the next title shot, according to Uncle Dana. I completely agree with that because DDP, he should have fought Izzy. Someone said he had an injury. I don't know, but I think this is a very deserving title shot. Usman moving up a weight class, I think will probably be beneficial to him because he's a massive welterweight. I don't know how he cut down for so long. And Chimaev, hopefully he won't have weight problems here, but I think this matchup is infinitely better than Costa and Chimaev. I think Costa Chimaev is still a great fight. I hope that gets made in the future, but this is what I want to see.
Yeah, it's a tough break for Costa. I mean, a lot of people give him some stuff for pulling out of fights, and he does tend to pull out of fights or, show up 10 pounds heavy or whatever. But this one really, there's nothing you can do about it, right? You get a staph infection, it comes back, you have to get surgery. It's a tough break, but we end up with a much better fight. And yes, I'm excited to see Kamaru Usman at middleweight. I'm excited to see Hamzat Chimaev at middleweight. Has he fought there once,
Yeah,
twice in the UFC?
I think he fought almost all of his fights there except for Gilbert Burns.
Oh, right. Okay, yeah. So, yeah, I mean, he's a big dude. If you see him next to some of his training partners out with like Gustafsson or Latifi, I mean, he's a big guy. So 185 is definitely the correct division for him to be in. And Usman too is also a big guy. I just don't know if Usman at this stage in his career is as physically imposing as he once was. I don't know if he's as explosive, as capable as he once was. I do think that he has a pretty good shot in this fight. Anyone just counting him out immediately, I think is misguided. It is on short notice
Misguided.
too, though.
Very
So,
nice.
so that's the thing to note. He is taking this on a week and a half notice. It's going to be tough, especially against such a incredible opponent like Hamzat.
Yeah.
But the people who win in all this are us, the fans. If you're a fan of MMA, you have to love this fight. And regardless of your feelings on Kamaru Usman coming into this, you have to have a degree of respect for him for taking a fight against a guy who almost nobody wants to fight. And he's going in there on a week and a half notice, and he's going to try to get it done. So, and then with the title shot, I get it. I think with DDP, with his win over Whitaker, I think Whitaker is arguably the most well-rounded fighter in the middleweight division. So I think to beat a guy like that and to finish him, I think is a very good statement for a title shot. So I think he's very deserving of a title shot. And I do get what you're saying too about, he could have fought Izzy. He didn't take that opportunity. And we saw what happened when Sean Strickland did take the opportunity and he won. So, I do get both perspectives there. And honestly, whoever wins this fight, definitely deserving of a title shot as well. It's just a matter of, who gets it first.
Yeah, and we won't see DDP versus Izzy for a while due to the fact that Izzy's taking time off.
As he should.
Yeah, I'm thinking a year. He has to do at least a year because he, as much as we dog him, for being a boring fighter. We saw him every 5 months.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
so I hope.
those guys, man, Volk and Izzy, their activity is crazy. Like their schedule, their pace is just unbelievable.
Yeah.
They're
So,
fighting all the time.
I hope Izzy gets right mentally and figures some stuff out because I think he still has a lot of career ahead of him.
Yeah.
But yeah, shout out to Izzy, man. So we talked about that earlier than I thought, but okay, this was big. So, Charles Oliveira was fighting. Well, I guess yeah, he was fighting in sparring clearly because he got a gnarly cut over his right eyebrow. You could see the bone. They must have been throwing elbows or something because that's insane. I don't know why you would do that because it reminds me of like when Kelvin Gastelum had to pull out a few months ago because someone threw a spinning back elbow in sparring and cut him across the nose, which I
Imagine
don't know.
being that guy.
We're not talking about Kelvin. Shout out Kelvin though. He's fighting Sean Brady, I'm pretty sure, in December. So that'll be a fun fight. But anyway, so whom do they call? Volkanovski to come up and rematch Islam Makhachev at 294. My boy Mateusz Gamrot wasn't pleased, even though that's not necessarily his role. His role was to be the backup at the weigh-ins in case something happens, not the replacement. There's a difference. But Volk has nothing to lose here, man. If you really think about it, he's coming in short notice to take on Islam Makhachev in a fight. I thought he won the last time, but I'm not going to sit and complain that and say, oh, Islam won, or like, it was clear. It wasn't clear. But this is the fight. This is the fight that should have been made, I think. And I think the only reason Charles Oliveira got a title shot off Beneil Dariush, who's a savage, I'm on the Beneil hype train personally, is simply due to his popularity. But dude, what's your thoughts on this? This is much better, I think.
Yeah, it was an interesting turn of events for sure. I personally really wanted to see Charles back in there because I think Charles, when you win 11 fights in a row, right? And sure, he gets knocked down and he faces adversity in these fights. You're still doing something incredible. And Islam is now at that point that Charles was. I mean, Islam has like an 11 fight win streak, and I just think the build up to their first fight was amazing. The fight itself, yeah, Islam dominated, but then for Charles to bounce back, because he easily could have done what he did earlier in his career, where he took a bad loss, he got finished, and then he's like, you know what, I'm just going to quit these next couple times out. I'm done. I don't really feel like getting back out there. But he came out against a savage, like you said. I mean, Beneil Dariush. Keep in mind, we're talking about Gamrot. Gamrot wanted to be the backup. Dariush beat up Gamrot. I mean, he took it to Mateusz Gamrot. He knocked him down, almost like flattened him.
That would have flatlined any other person.
Yeah. I mean, shout out to Gamrot. He has a great chin. But, Dariush ran through him, and it really wasn't a close fight. He defended almost all the takedowns. And Oliveira just, I mean, the power, man, the precision that, he laid on Dariush was incredible. So I wouldn't have minded if Charles had fought another time and then got the title shot. But I also didn't mind that they were doing it right away either. And it's the same thing for Volkanovski. I mean, it was a close first fight. Like I do believe Islam won, but I could definitely see the other side. I think that regardless of how you score it, it's a fight that needs to be run back at some point. And I'm glad they're doing it now. I wish it would have been. My only issue with this is that I really want to see Volk and Islam both with full camps for each other, which they had the first time, right? I want to see that again because I want to see what changes they're going to implement, because it's hard on a week and a half notice to go look back and say, and I'm sure Volk is in there training, preparing for another Islam fight at some point. I mean, I'm sure he knew this would happen, but I don't think he knew it was going to be a week and a half from a couple of days ago. So I wish they would have had a full camp for each other again. But at the same time, Volk is such an adaptable guy. He's such a creative and intelligent fighter that if anybody can come in on a week and a half notice and come up with a game plan, it's going to be him and the team around him. He's bringing in Craig Jones. He's bringing in all those guys that were in the first camp and that have been in his camp, throughout these fights. So it's an incredible matchup. I mean, I can't wait to see it. And it is, although I love Charles, it is a better fight just in terms of, the matchup. I do think it's better than Charles and Islam.
Yeah, I think I really do think if anybody can come in on, like you said, on short notice and win this fight, it's Volk. And I think there's so many more questions coming into this than the first one. How's Islam going to adjust on 10 days notice? Um, Now he was training for a ground guy in Charles probably when it comes to the jiu-jitsu, but Volk's a tougher guy to take down. And I am so intrigued. I really do think my gut's telling me Volk will win this, and I don't know why. And I think it's just the mentality that he has nothing to lose. Maybe, I mean, he might not fight at lightweight again if he loses. I mean, that's a lot. However, that's just a different mentality. He's coming on 10 days notice. But, Islam's had a full camp. And, both these guys have prepared for each other in the past. So, and they fought each other. There's so many elements to this fight that make it interesting to me. I can't wait. I think this is, if the last fight, Islam versus Charles was there, I would have gone to the football game. I'm not saying I wasn't excited, but now I can't go to the football game. I have to watch this on television. I'll tailgate, but I have to watch this on television. Dude, I can't wait. This is going to be awesome.
Yeah, it's probably skill for skill, probably the best fight that you could make in the UFC right now. So the fact that we get to see it 2 times within a year is pretty incredible. It's not often that you get guys that are number 2, number 3, pound for pound, facing off against each other multiple times in 1 year. And I think regardless of the outcome, it's going to be super competitive. And it is interesting, Islam became very accustomed. He finished Charles, he finished Dan Hooker, he finished Bobby Green. He was running through these guys. Like it was first round, second round. And then he meets Volk, and Volk is much shorter. You know, I think Islam, I wouldn't say that he took him lightly. I just think he kind of got used to being the dominant bully on top and just beating up everyone that came his way. And you get this guy who's moving up a weight class, who's smaller than him, less physically imposing than him, and he gives you the most problems. I think it's going to be an interesting test for Islam and his mental fortitude, to see a guy who gave you so many problems. And even though I do think Islam won that fight, there's no doubt that the moments were won by Volkanovski throughout most of the fight, especially in that last sequence, like with a minute left, and he gets him down, and he was just raining down shots on him. And Islam is bloodied up, he's battered, he's exhausted. That is something that sticks in people's mind. It sticks in the judge's mind. It sticks in his mind, both Volk and Islam. So Islam's going to remember that moment. And I don't know, is he going to come out more aggressive because he wants to get him out of there? Or is he going to come out less aggressive because he wants to conserve energy? It's going to be really interesting to see how they change from the first fight, both of them.
Yeah, that's a good point. Optics were won by Volk, I'd say, in that fight. But so good. All right. Let's transition to this weekend. Yusuf versus Barboza. Couple okay fights on here. Nothing too crazy. But I'll share the screen nonetheless. Darren Elkins 50 USADA tests. Congrats to him. We'll talk about USADA in a minute. This is a good fight. TJ Brown, always game. Terrence McKinney stepping in for everyone, it seems like, lately. Chris, all right, this is a good fight. I don't know why this isn't on the main card. Chris Gutierrez versus Alatang Haley.
Yeah, it was an even better fight, too. It was going to be him versus Montel Jackson, which I was really looking forward to.
That was going to be awesome.
I mean, both those guys are on really nice runs. I mean, Gutierrez did have a little setback with Munoz, but they're both on good runs in the division. I mean, Alatang Lee is also a good fighter, and he's training at Fight Ready. He's a tough guy, so I think it's going to be a fun matchup.
Yeah, fun matchup. Yoda versus Ducote. I'm pretty high on Ducote personally. I think I forget whom she fought last time.
She's fought no one but killers. I mean, she's had a really tough schedule.
Yeah, and Angela Hill. That's a big step up from Jessica Penne.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, she put on a great performance against Penne. McKinney, I don't know. He has potential, but he can't seem to just get a run going. He might win one or two and then just get demolished. I mean, he's lived by the sword, die by the sword. You can't miss a fight, and people hate him for some reason. I don't get it. I mean, the dude was literally dead at one point and, came back and he's fighting in the UFC. So kudos to him.
Dude, I don't get it either. I love Terrence McKinney. I out of all the fighters on the roster, he is one of the ones that I really like truly want to succeed in the UFC because like you mentioned, every single fight, whether it's win, lose, or draw, this guy is going to the death. I mean, he is in nothing but entertaining fights. He's pretty active. That's always a bonus as well. He's game. I mean, this guy, he's just so entertaining, and he doesn't even really talk trash. As far as I have seen from him, he's not going in there saying like, disparaging his opponent. Like, I just don't get the Terrence McKinney hate. I do see it sometimes out there. It's kind of odd. I mean, I really want this guy to succeed because I think skill wise, he's a very good wrestler. He has the potential to be a good striker. He's very explosive and powerful. He just hasn't refined it yet. But if he can hone those skills a little bit, I think he's going to be a force in the lightweight division.
Yeah, and if you look at whom he's beat, Favola, I mean, Favola's looking great as of late.
That aged well, aged
very well. For Ziam, solid fighter. This, if you haven't seen the Drew Dober McKinney first round, go and watch that. They are swanging and banging for 3 minutes and 17 seconds. Awesome round.
Arguably could have stopped Dober in that fight. Another ref could have stepped in and called it.
Yeah, and then Gonzalez, he beat Gonzalez by submission. This Bomb Fiend knockout
that's a tough one.
Filthy. I mean, Bomb Fiend's a savage. There's no question about it. So that's not even a bad loss, man.
Yeah.
Sadakov's really good too. And he beat Mike Breeden. So yeah, this has banger written all over it simply because it's Terrence McKinney. Elkins versus TJ Brown. Sober TJ Brown might be a different animal, man. I don't know if you've seen, but I don't want to get mixed up. I'm pretty sure he went to rehab and he got sober. But Darren the Damage Elkins, man, always game for anything. But I really think TJ Brown will take this one.
Yeah, I think you have to favor TJ Brown in this one. And I love Darren Elkins, and he's been in a lot of very entertaining fights. His finish of Mirsad Bektic is probably one of the best comebacks in the history of the UFC. But the dude is, he's probably 40 years old by now. His nickname is the Damage, and he takes a lot of damage. Now, he can absorb it, right? Most of the time, he can absorb that damage. But we saw in that Cub Swanson fight, that chin isn't always going to hold up, man. I mean, sure, he didn't get knocked out cold, but he was getting hurt badly by Cub Swanson. And I'm not saying, don't get me wrong, TJ Brown is not nearly the same striker that Cub Swanson is, but he's younger. He does carry some power in his hands, and he's dangerous on the ground, that's for sure. So if Elkins' plan, which it has been traditionally, especially in recent years, to come in and wrestle these guys, get them to the ground, control them, I just don't know if he's going to be able to do that against TJ with, his age, with the damage that he's taken. I mean, I love Darren Elkins, man. But yeah. Yes, and he has it tattooed right across his chest. So
yeah, I respect. I love the confidence. I love the confidence. But TJ Brown, man, shout out TJ Brown. I think he follows me on Instagram, actually.
Downtown TJ Brown.
Okay, this fight is awesome. Cameron Simon versus Christian Rodriguez. Christian Rodriguez, I mean, he beat down Raul Rosas. That was pretty bad. Made a lot of sense to me personally. And his only loss is to Pierce in the UFC, and Jonathan Pierce isn't a bum by any means. But yeah, I think Simon, he's my age, which freaks me out. Oh, he's younger than I am. But I mean, the people he's beat, solid opponents. But I think Christian Rodriguez is going to be a really good test for him because I mean, they're both young guys. This is a preview of the future of this division, I think.
Yeah, no, this is a tremendous matchup. I think, for more casual viewers, it might fly under the radar a little bit, but definitely keep your eye on these guys, regardless of the outcome. I think that both these guys have a home in the bantamweight division. They have a bright future. Cameron Simon, I think he trains out of the same camp as Duplessis. He's a very, tough fighter. He's pretty well-rounded. I wouldn't say he's incredible anywhere, like his wrestling or his striking. It's not like it stands out particularly, but in the same way that Duplessis is like that, he just gets the job done. I mean, Cameron Simon knows how to win fights, and he finished Terrence Mitchell in the last one. He had a bit of a weird fight with is that his name? Mana
I think you're
Martinez, I
right.
think. But
Yeah,
I mean, these are decent guys. Like Mana's not a bad fighter.
Mana boy.
Yeah, Mana, but so he's faced some decent competition, but yeah, it's a big test. Christian Rodriguez, he looked bad, I would say, in that first round of the Rosas fight. Like he definitely, Rosas was kind of taking it to him, but he weathered the storm, and then he really took it to Rosa.
That was a
So
beat down.
yeah, so he started beating him up pretty bad after that. He's very tough. Obviously, we learned that from the Rosas fight. He's got a little bit more experience, not a ton more experience. He's still pretty young himself, but got a little bit more experience than Simon. I don't know, man. That's a tough fight to call. I almost would favor Cameron Simon in this fight, but man, it's tough.
And the odds are almost even on this one at -162 and +136. I mean, they're both so young. They're both so good. That's what's exciting about this one. Michel Pereira versus Andre Petrosky. Michel Pereira moving up to middleweight after missing weight against Stephen Wonderboy. Petrosky, he's been looking better and better each fight with his grappling. I'm interested to see how less of a weight cut affects Michel Pereira. I think he'll I don't know, because he's not going to be big for middleweight, but he's big for 170. He's a tweener, in my opinion. But Petrosky's a true middleweight. And whom did he beat last time? I can't remember, but I'm pretty sure he subbed a guy. Right, that was Mearshart by split. And then he beat Wellington Turman earlier. But I think Petrosky gets this one done personally on the ground.
Yeah, man. I think I'm on the flip side. I think Michel Pereira, he is a big guy. Like he is a huge welterweight, from what I've seen at least. So I think he's going to fit in pretty nicely to this weight class. I think a lot of people, when they look at Michel Pereira and they see, his first fights in the UFC, oh, he was doing backflips, right? He was throwing flying knees and spinning elbows. He was doing all this crazy stuff, and he got DQ'd and ended up losing to Diego Sanchez, which is a very bad loss to have on your record. But at the same time, look, this guy is on a 5-fight win streak, beating the likes of Chaos Williams, Ponzinibbio, Nico Price, Fialio. I mean, he's beaten very good guys. And let's keep in mind, too, these are decisions. So we know Pereira has gas, and we know he struggles making weight. So imagine when he's up at 185 and he's not cutting that extra weight, how much more active is he going to be able to be? How much more explosive is he going to be able to be? I think if he can dial this in correctly, if it's a good weight cut for him, I think he wins this fight pretty handily. Petrosky in the last one against Gerald Mearshart, I was not impressed, man. Gerald Mearshart, his striking is deceptively good. It's like it looks really bad, but it's
Yeah,
a little bit better than it is. I mean,
finds the target.
yeah, if I remember, wasn't Mearshart doing okay with Bruno Silva on the feet? So it's like, Mearshart's not terrible on the feet. But at this age, like at this stage in his career, you should be dominating a guy like Gerald Mearshart if you're Andre Petrosky with your level of grappling, with your power that you carry. And it was a split decision. So I just, I'm not super impressed with these last couple performances, but it's going to be close. But I do think Michel Pereira takes this one.
Yeah, it'll be a good one. All right, this fight's awesome. Jonathan Martinez versus Adrian Yanez. Yanez. Oof, that's a mouthful, but
It's fun to say, though.
Yeah, it's fun to say Yanez. But shout out to Adrian Yanez, man. This is a fun fight. Martinez coming off. Whom did he beat last time?
Saeed.
Saeed Nurmagomedov on the Pyotr Yan versus Dvalishvili card. Trying to think what to say about Martinez. I mean, this Cub Swanson knockout, in my opinion. Cubs shouldn't have cut that. I don't think so. And then he just demolished Vince Morales' leg. Shout out Vince Morales. Check those leg kicks, buddy. But Yanez's boxing is so crisp, and I think if Martinez wants to win this fight, I don't think he's going to win it on the feet. I obviously he can catch him, but I think his fight is won on the ground by Martinez. But if Giannis can stick his jab out there, I don't see Martinez getting close to him.
Yeah, no, this is the best matchup on the whole card. And frankly, this is one of the best matchups that we've seen in quite a while, because the way I see it, right, Yanez is an incredible boxer. This guy, his hands are phenomenal. I mean, pound for pound, he is he's one of the cleanest boxers in the UFC. He came in, KO'd or TKO'd like 4 straight guys in the UFC. Not a super high level of competition. But then, Tony Kelly, for all the crap that people give him, not a terrible fighter. Randy Costa is not bad. And then he stepped up against Rob Font, and he was looking good against Rob Font, right? But then he got a little over aggressive. Rob Font, a veteran, a tough guy who doesn't carry a ton of power in his hands, but he, Yanez really overextended himself, and Font caught him. And I thought Font just really executed a good game plan once he adapted to what was happening. But Yanez, incredible boxer, right? And what makes it so interesting is that you see Jonathan Martinez, and then he's got the kicks. This guy is one of the best kickers in the division. So you got one of the best punchers versus one of the best kickers. And you mentioned the jab. If Yanez gets that jab going, it's going to be a battle of these long range weapons to set up their other attacks. So it's going to be Yanez's jab setting up his other attacks, his boxing attacks, versus Martinez with the teep kick, with the leg kick, setting up everything else that comes with that. So you got a boxer versus a Muay Thai fighter, and I absolutely love it. This fight is incredible. And Jonathan Martinez, he finished Cub Swanson with a leg kick in that fight, and ground and pounded him after that. And did he finish Vince Morales as well?
No, he went to decision. But Vince was sitting,
but his leg was
was toast.
Yeah, so this guy, it's going to be a problem, I think, if he lands a couple of kicks. I mean, there are guys out there, Gaethje, for example, or trying to think of some other examples. Aldo, they kick your legs a few times and you're done. Like 2-3 times is all they need. Martinez is one of those guys. If he connects with your legs even a couple of times, that's all he needs. You're going to be compromised for the rest of that fight. And when you're a guy like Adrian Yanez, who is primarily a boxer, who is pretty heavy on that lead leg and does pressure forward so much, he's going to have to do a good job of staying very close up, right? He can't be in that middle range or that long range where Martinez can land those kicks. He's going to have to either be all the way in or all the way out. And I think it'd be much smarter, get in the pocket. I know that Martinez, obviously he's a Muay Thai fighter. That's his background, and he's got great clinch work. But I think Yanez has great clinch work too. I mean, his dirty boxing on the inside is very, very good. I think that it would be smart for Yanez to get in there, work the body. And that's, oh man, I think the reason I love Adrian Yanez so much is his body work. When I think about fighters that I really, really enjoy watching, the ones that always come to mind are guys that just rip to the body constantly. And there is almost no one that rips better body punches than Adrian Yanez in the bantamweight division. So, this fight is, in my opinion, can't miss. Like, you have to watch. If nothing else, you have to watch this fight.
I agree. I think this could have been a main event, and I would have been cool with it. I wouldn't have any complaints.
100%.
Not being disrespectful, but I really don't want to spend too much time on this one. Jennifer Maia versus Viviane Araujo. Both are slipping a little bit. Jennifer Maia, I mean, she's coming off 2 wins, but Maia Morose and Casey O'Neill. This was O'Neill coming off an injury, and I'm not too high on Morose. And then, Manon Fior, I saw that fight. That was actually pretty awesome. Caitlin Sermonara, Caitlin Chikagian, lost there. She lost to Shevchenko. She's good, but I don't know. I'm not saying this is Araujo's time by any means, but did she? I can't remember if she beat Amanda Ribas.
No, she lost to her.
That's what I thought. It was. Oh my god! I think these stats have to be wrong. There's no way only.
No.
Yeah, there's no way only 4 strikes. I remember that fight. There's no way only 4 strikes were landed.
No, I don't know what's going on with that.
But I don't. There's not many implications here. I'm not saying there's like huge implications with either of these other fights, but like that this division's stagnant right now because they're going to make the trilogy. So I got Maya by sub. That's my prediction.
Yeah, this is definitely one of those fights where, I just have a little bit of a hard time getting overly excited for it. You look at their records, right? Jennifer Maya has gone to decision in all but one of her UFC fights. Vivian Araujo has gone to decision in all but one of her UFC fights. So they're decision fighters. This is going to go to decision. The odds for going to a decision are probably like minus 500 right now, but they're not overly exciting. I mean, Jennifer Maya really has become what she is just by being a bit tougher than most of the other women in this division. She is not overly skilled. She has a good, she's good on the ground. She's not really submitting people, but she does have good submissions. I mean, she's just not doing it very often, but she's a good grappler. She's a good wrestler, but her striking is, decent. It's not bad by any means. She's one of those fighters where you just look at her and you're like, yeah, she's okay. She's all right.
That's a great way to put it.
But nothing jumps off the page. None of her fights are memorable. The only thing I remember about her career really is that people were like, oh my gosh, because she won the first round against Shevchenko. And everyone was like, oh my God, Shevchenko now. And then Shevchenko won the next four. So, this fight is just not, like you said, what are the implications of this fight? If Jennifer Maya, okay, she's on a 3-fight win streak. Do we really want to see Jennifer Maya and get another title shot anytime soon? Not particularly. Araujo is on a 2-fight losing streak. So if she loses this one, I mean, I guess maybe, one more and then she's out. I don't know. I'm just not overly excited for this fight. I respect them both, and I respect anybody who steps into that octagon, but not my cup of tea, man.
Yeah. Who would they fight? Lauren Murphy?
Yeah, I don't know. Misha Tate or something.
They should not have made that Lauren Murphy versus Andrade fight. That fight should have been stopped by the corner.
Oh yeah, dude.
Oh yeah, I remember they were telling like, you're doing great.
No,
your wife's getting beat up.
Yeah, it was sad to watch. Am I mistaken, or are they giving Misha Tate another main event, or did they just announce that she was on a card but not the main event?
Let me see.
Dude, if they're giving Misha Tate another main event, I swear, Misha Tate, and this, look, I don't want to offend anybody out there, but the only reason why people like Misha Tate is because, well, okay, I think a lot of people out there pretend to like Misha Tate more than they do as a fighter because she is beautiful. She's a good looking woman, right? She's very good looking. And I think people tend to, they're like, oh, let's just stick her in a main event. She is boring. She is not a good fighter. When she came and fought Lauren Murphy, that was one of the first fights I ever picked and was like, I think Lauren Murphy's going to win this fight. Not because Lauren Murphy's good. I mean, she's certainly not. Just because Misha Tate is not good. She is not a good fighter. She was losing to Holly Holm. She pulled off an incredible submission. I'll always get great, fantastic submission. Other than that, man,
she got beat up by a minute.
But yeah, she's not. She's lost 4 out of her last 5.
And her last win was against Marion Renault.
Yeah. That's, tells you all you need to know right there.
She's fighting Julia Avila.
That better not. I mean, there's no way that's a main event.
That's not a main event.
I don't
think so. I don't know. It can't be the main event. Jared Cannonier and Roma Delizze on the card, that can't be the main event. Or Sean Brady and Kelvin Gastelum.
Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah, there's no way.
Or Khalil Roundtree.
Dude, Rob Font and Davison Figueroa.
I think that's the main event.
This card's kind of fire.
I think this is actually the main event. Font versus Figueredo. It has to be.
Joe Selecki and Drucker Close. Man, this card is good, dude. Roundtree and Mirzakhanov. Whoa, we got to keep an eye out for
Soriano versus Stoltzfus. Ooh.
Puna. We got to keep an eye out for this card.
This is a fun Guida versus Joaquim Silva.
Oh, and that guy, how do you say his name? Mesquiel Costa. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right.
Yeah.
But he's an entertaining guy. I remember him because he has that skin condition, but he is a very good fighter. Memorable.
This is a banging card.
Dude, fine Figueredo. Oof, man, that is something. That is something else. It's gonna be incredible.
Insane.
Can't wait for that one.
Oh, dude, this card's good. I can't wait for December 2nd. I didn't expect to be excited for that day, but shoot. All right, I'm down. All right, main event time. Sadiq Youssef versus Edson Barboza. Personally, I think Barboza should stop doing MMA and go into bodybuilding, because what the hell is this physique? Good Lord. Get on the horse meat, get on the supplements. You have a future. Ronnie Coleman will help you out. But I don't know what to think about this fight. This has a potential to be fun. I'm not calling Sadiq Yusuf a decision guy, but lately that seems to be the trend. But I think since Edson Barboza just brings the heat, you're not really going to see a decision in this fight, because Sadiq Yusuf's probably going to be fighting off the back foot. Barboza coming off a win against Billy Q. Brutal knee. Absolutely brutal. And Sadiq Yusuf coming off a win against Shanus. And Caceres. So Yusuf needs to fight more. But I'm not too excited for this main event personally.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say I'm pretty excited for it. Just because, Edson Barboza, like you said, he always brings it, man. All of his fights are pretty exciting. He's very powerful, very quick and explosive. Even at this age, man, he is so explosive, which is really incredible. And something that always amazed me about Edson Barboza is that no matter how old he gets or who he's fighting, his timing is one. I mean, he has some of the best timing in the UFC. You look at the knockout of Billy Q, reminiscent of the knockout of Dariush. I mean, you just look at the finish of Dan Hooker. If anybody ever wants to watch one of the worst beatdowns in UFC history, arguably
that's brutal.
Like one of the worst beatdowns you will ever see is Edson Barboza just beating up on Dan Hooker and breaking him down until Dan Hooker was like keeled over, about to just pass out. Barboza is a tough guy. A lot of his fights that he lost up at lightweight were very close decisions, like the Felder fight. When he moved down, I thought he beat Dan Ige in that first fight, and I think that really would have changed his career quite a bit. But it was close, And then ran into some trouble with Giga, a little bit of trouble. He got knocked down by Bryce Mitchell, which isn't a great look. But I think it was one of those cases where he was so ready for the takedown. He was expecting it so much that Mitchell just caught him. And so I think on the feet, Barboza is going to present problems to anybody. Obviously, the dude is an incredible striker. And Sadiq Yusuf, like you mentioned, he's a great striker too. He's not as powerful, I think, as people believe he is. He had a couple of good finishes. He came to the UFC, beat a guy who nobody really knows too much. I mean, he beat Mowgli, Gabriel Benitez after that. And Gabriel Benitez is pretty good. But then he, rattled off a couple of decisions. I think it was the timing. It was the shot placement for him. His last fight, he definitely was more aggressive, but that was like a last second replacement. Don Shanus, not nearly the same level of fighter as a guy like Barboza or even Caceres, for example. But I will say the Caceres win is good, because I actually really like Alex Caceres. I think he's a much better fighter than people give him credit for. So Sadiq Yusuf, I think, very talented. I mean, he's a tough dude. He can mix in the grappling a little bit here and there. Definitely going to be primarily a striking matchup. But yeah, I think Barboza can get it done, man. I know that he's, a little bit older now, but Yusuf is not one of those guys that's going to bring the pressure. No. The times that we've seen Barboza really struggle is Khabib, is Gaethje, is guys that are just marching him down and plodding forward and throwing big shots, taking him down, tiring him out. I just don't see Sadiq Yusuf implementing that game plan. Now, he could come in there and implement that type of game plan, which would be very smart.
Yeah, he has the skill set to do it.
Yeah, I mean, like, just if you think about it. I mean, look at the guys we lost to. Bryce Mitchell, Khabib, Kevin Lee, Tony Ferguson. These guys are all pressure fighters. They're all pressure. They're all walking forward. They're all trying to take him down. They're all trying to take his head off. So I just don't see Yusuf. I just don't see him doing that.
No, I don't either.
I think it'd be pretty fun. It should be a fun fight.
I think Barboza will win by knockout. That's how I see it going.
Yeah, I could see it. And the one thing I always look forward to about Edson Barboza fights is when he finishes them, they're always like the craziest finishes. Billy Q, knee up the middle. Shane Burgos, the most delayed reaction to a punch in UFC history.
That was scary.
Yeah, that was pretty scary. You've got Dan Hooker, where he just finishes with like a spinning back kick. Hooker's just like bent over himself. Dariush, flying knee.
That's brutal.
I mean, go all the way back to probably one of the most well-known knockouts in UFC history, where he finished Terry Edom with a spinning wheel. I mean, this guy, every time he finishes someone, it is a highlight. This guy is a walking highlight when he finishes people. So I think it's going to be, if he does it, it's going to be spectacular, probably.
Yeah, and the thing with what makes Barboza so tough to fight is that he doesn't project anything. He projects nothing. Everything
Yeah.
is chambered without any projection. I mean, he's
Oh,
a
yeah.
phenomenal
I mean,
fighter.
if you watch the Terry Edom fight, he literally just went from a bladed stance facing Terry Edom to the next second he was turning into a kick and his foot was hitting his head. It's like, how does one's body even rotate that quickly with no tell, no setup?
Yeah, it's crazy. Absolutely, I can't speak highly enough of Edson Barboza. Probably one of the better fighters to never fight for a title.
Yeah, man, he got close a couple of times, but he always just had a little setback, like the setback to Habib, the setback to Tony. I mean, he got close, man, but
Gaethje, yeah, lots of dang man, would have been awesome. All right, USADA. So if you guys haven't heard, if you've been living under a rock and you haven't heard about, the changes of 294 or USADA. So UFC will not be using USADA anymore after this year is over. So Conor McGregor just got back in the pool, and then they said, yeah, he's back in the pool, but after January 1st, 2024, doesn't really matter anymore. I'm trying to find the statement that USADA put out because it was pretty interesting. And Dana White is not, of course, Uncle Dana's not happy.
yeah, it's not amicable. It's a little bit hostile, I would say,
Yeah.
between these two parties. But all you need to know, anyone out there, just go to YouTube and watch a video by this channel called Mojahed Food Elite, I believe is how you pronounce it. Just go watch his video. He makes like animations of UFC fighters and Dana White, and he did one on this situation, and it is very funny. So if you want to know about the situation, just go watch that, and it'll explain it to you.
Yeah, for sure. And apparently the UFC's not happy with how they treated Conor. I'm looking at stuff from Aaron Bronstetter. I think one of the better MMA reporters, in my opinion. They're disappointed for the UFC athletes. Yeah, USADA is.
Now, if I'm not mistaken, what USADA is claiming is that they wanted Conor McGregor, obviously, to get back into the testing pool, to wait his 6 months in order to be eligible to fight. And according to USADA, and I'm not saying whether this is true or not, this is what USADA is saying, is that the UFC was trying to pressure them into letting Conor fight without having to wait in that 6 month time window. That's from what I've heard is what they're alleging.
Yeah. And this is what Braun said. The relationship between USADA and the UFC became untenable given the statements by UFC leaders and others questioning USADA's principled stance that Conor McGregor not be allowed to fight without being in the testing pool for at least 6 months. One UFC commentator echoed this, recently declaring that USADA should not oversee the UFC program since we held firm to the 6-month rule involving Conor McGregor. And since we do not allow fighters without an approved medical basis to use performance-enhancing drugs like experimental unapproved peptides or testosterone for healing or injuries to get back into the octagon. So the UFC is using a new anti-doping agent. Well, it's not new, but a different one. It's one the NFL, MLB, and everyone else uses.
I mean,
I don't know, man.
I think it could be a good thing because I think USADA is trash anyway. I mean, USADA, we can all pretend, right? We can sit here and pretend that fighters in the UFC aren't on steroids, but many of them are. I mean, it's very obvious. You can just look at them and, you can kind of, oh, yeah, this guy's probably on some type of steroid. Now, there's a lot of issues I have with USADA. Like one of them is there's a thing called like a location violation for USADA
that's
testing.
ridiculous.
So, yeah, so they'll ask a guy, say it's back when Brock Lesnar, oh hey Brock, where are you at right now, we're going to come test you. Brock Lesnar says, oh, I'm in Minnesota, I'm back home. They show up to his house in Minnesota. They say, Brock, you're not here, where are you actually at? He's like, oh, sorry guys, I'm in Las Vegas right now. And they're like, oh, Oh, darn. You can do that 3 times per year, right? So there are guys who have probably been on steroids, and USADA asks where they are. They give a false location. They're somewhere completely different. USADA does not follow up, and you can have 3 of those per year. That is insane,
Yeah.
right? There's also cycling on and off steroids, which, as long as you're not tested in the window of time when you are cycling onto a steroid, if you can cycle off at a good enough, in a good enough time frame, then when you get tested by USADA after you're off of it, then technically you're not on steroids. Now, I'm not saying they should barge into people's homes at 3 a.m, wake them and their family up, which is also like, that's another thing that's ridiculous. USADA does so many things wrong,
Yeah.
and I feel like they're lax in so many areas, and then they'll just go to like Volkanovski in the middle of the night. It's like, what? I mean, there some of these guys they're testing like 40, 50 times, really for no reason. And then other people they just kind of let slip through the cracks. So I have a ton of issues with USADA anyway. I believe USADA when it comes to the Conor McGregor thing. I do think the UFC was probably trying to pressure them to get Conor back in there without the 6 month time window, but I just think USADA sucks. And if they can find a better anti-doping agency, then I'm all for it. But I wouldn't be surprised if the UFC was trying to get Conor back in there, you know?
Yeah. And I think I'm trying to get my thought together on this one. I don't like if you're not gonna. I mean, if you're not testing people like Yuri Prohaska like every other day, practically, you can get away with it. Um, you're gonna find metabolite for stuff and everything, but I just don't think that it's really trying to think of the word. It's nothing. There's no you can't rely on it all the time. And I mean, obviously things are gonna slip through the cracks anyway. That's just how it works. But I think USADA also didn't want to change their ways. And I know Hunter Campbell and what's Jeff Nowitzki had a press conference yesterday. I'll probably watch it after this. They're talking about, we don't agree with some of USADA stuff. So I don't know. It'll be interesting. I know John Jones he came out like, hey, give me my win back with DC because he never cheated the sport.
Yeah.
Picograms.
I mean, it's hard to say, man. I've never really taken a hard position when it comes to the John Jones steroid use thing because, I mean, if we're being honest, right, Anderson Silva popped at one point multiple times, I think, in his career as well. So when people talk about, oh, this guy being clean, this guy not being clean, yeah, I mean, a lot of your favorite fighters have popped at some point. I mean, even one of the Diaz bros popped for a supplement at one point. So I mean, look, you know, I'm of the belief that most guys in the UFC take steroids or have taken them at one point or another. And I don't really have an issue with it. It's a super tough sport. It is grueling, the training that's involved. As long as they're doing it in a safe manner, because people, when they hear the word steroid, right, they think, oh, you just shoot something into your veins and you look like Brock Lesnar, right? That's not how steroids work. There are steroids that can help you reduce your white blood cell count to have better stamina. There are various different types of steroids that help you with various different things, and if you're doing that in a safe manner and there aren't harmful side effects to these steroids that you're using, I don't have an issue with it. We just have to be open about it and say, yes, we are using these supplements or steroids to help with our performance. Here's the upside, here's the downside, potentially whatever, just as long as you're open about it. But I mean, I just hate this game that we have to play of like pretending that, no, USADA did such a good job. There aren't really, people in the UFC aren't even using steroids. Like, come on, guys. Come
Come
on.
on.
I mean,
Look at
Sean O'Malley popped at one point.
yeah, and Brian Ortega.
Yeah, exactly.
Lots of people you don't know about, guys. It's I don't know. Hopefully it gets better. But dude, we forgot to talk about the biggest combat sports event this weekend. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yes, that would be Logan Paul and Dylan Dennis.
And KSI versus Tommy Fury.
Oh, I forgot about that one.
Quick preview of KSI Tommy Fury. Tommy Fury destroys him within 2 rounds. I don't see that fight going anywhere. If Tommy Fury takes it seriously, KSI is getting knocked out.
Yeah, I would tend to agree with that. I think KSI, I mean, He's okay. He's not a bad boxer or anything, but I've never seen anything that impressed me too much with him. But Tommy Fury is like an actual legit boxer. He's the son, obviously, of Tyson Fury, so
And
that
John, no,
definitely,
the brother of Tyson Fury,
or brother, sorry, yeah.
son of
Oh my
John
God,
Fury.
son of John Fury, yes. So yeah, I mean, I don't know, I don't know. So
Yeah,
I think Tommy Fury, yeah, I think he probably wins.
yeah. And then Logan, Dylan Dennis, man, he's been something different on Twitter over the past month, and we talked about this. Posting pictures of Nina Agdal, Logan Paul's fiance. It's real, man. And did you see the press conference yesterday? Logan Paul underhand threw a mic at Dylan Dennis's torso, and Dylan Dennis chucked a mic at his head, and he cut Logan Paul right below the eye. So the fight's not off. But
Man, that's
yeah,
dangerous. One
yeah,
little cut could throw the whole fight.
yeah. So Mike Perry might have had to step in.
I
He's
would
the
have loved
backup
that.
for the co-main and the main.
It's always a fun time seeing Mike Perry just like I don't like any fight, any promotion against anybody. I'm down to watch Mike Perry fight.
He's always around.
Yeah, he is always around just doing something to do with fighting. So good for him. But when it comes to that one, man, I know a lot of people hate Logan Paul. It's easy. It's very easy to hate Logan Paul. He is a despicable guy. I've actually hated Logan Paul since before it was cool to hate Logan Paul. Back when he was you
Fine.
know, that yeah, well, yeah, way back then, just because he was annoying, but also too when he was, getting really famous on YouTube. And well, I guess it was kind of popular to hate him when he did the whole Japanese suicide forest thing, or even before that when he just went to Japan and was like throwing Pokeballs at people, like those little Pokemon things. And it's like, dude, I mean, you're just a disrespectful, you know, piece of bleep. I mean, come on, man. So I hate Logan Paul. With all that being said, Dylan Dennis is not a boxer. This guy is great at jujitsu. I mean, my God, this guy is
Phenomenal.
fantastic. I mean, his grappling skills off the charts. One of the best grapplers in the world, probably. But he has not been active. He's been injured. He had like, from what I heard when he was on Ariel Helwani, he was talking about he had like one of the most devastating knee injuries, and then he went to get a skin or like they went to do a graft for his knee and it failed, and so he had to get a whole nother surgery. So it's just like, man, is this guy going to be 100%? And even if he is 100%, like I said, he's not a boxer. The only time he's even competed in MMA was like twice in Bellator. So I think Logan Paul dominates this guy. Not that I'm happy about it. I just not even that Logan Paul is good. This is not a reflection of Logan Paul's skills. This is a reflection of Dylan Dennis and his skills or lack thereof.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, something tells me Dylan Dennis will take this seriously, though.
I hope so. I hope so. I mean, and anybody who's that high level of an athlete is going to be able to adapt to another sport like fairly quickly.
Yeah,
So
I mean, if he puts his hands on you, you're done. If this was an MMA match, I mean, Logan Paul is actually a phenomenal wrestler. He placed it up. He was gonna do D1 at Ohio University, so it's not like he's a bum, but
yeah, yeah.
you know. And Drake placed an $850,000 bet on Logan
Dude,
Paul to win the fight.
man, if
That's
there
not
is
something you want to bet on.
Dude, if there is anything that is actually convincing me that Dylan Dennis will win this fight, it is the fact that Drake put money on Logan Paul. Because almost everybody Drake bets on they find a way to lose. They could be minus 750, minus 1,000, and they will find a way to lose that fight. I don't know if Drake has some type of like he's doing tax write-offs. He's like, oh, I need to, get some losses. I need to write this. Like, I don't know what he's doing, but this man loves to lose money betting on fights. And he always just like straight money line. I don't know
To win.
why. No, I don't know why no one around Drake has told him, hey, Drake, when someone is like a giant favorite, don't just straight money line bet them. That is a terrible idea. I don't know why he keeps doing that.
He
I mean,
won
what
big
are
with John Jones, though.
yeah, but that's like John Jones, in my opinion, is free money. Like anytime you can get John Jones for less than no, like when I saw him as minus like 350 against Stipe, I was like, oh my God, I'm about to mortgage a house right now because I think that John Jones should be like minus 1,500 in that fight. Legitimately. I mean, that's how highly I think of John Jones. So that's kind of a free square.
That's true. Outside of that, nothing much. Um, pretty tame week. So
Yeah.
oh, and Logan Paul brought Chris Hansen and Gordon Ryan to the weigh-ins.
Wow.
Chris Hansen.
Yeah, that's a weird guy to bring.
We shout Chris Hansen doing God's work. But
Is he
anyway,
implying that Dylan Dennis is like a pedophile or something? Or
let me see.
that's kind of a random guy to bring in.
Logan, this is from MMA Fighting. Logan Paul trots out to catch a predator host Chris Hansen to confront Dylan Dennis over harassment.
About like his girl.
Paul said he resorted to attacking an innocent bystander woman for this entire fight buildup. Dylan Dennis is a stalker. You've got over 600 photos of my fiance on your phone, on your personal phone. You have an entire gallery of a woman you've never met. That's weird. That's not normal behavior. You're a stalker. You're a cyberbully.
Listen, you know what I would say in response to that if I were Dylan Dennis is, where did those 600 photos come from? Why are they all publicly available? And why was I able to access them very easily? Like, I don't think Dylan Dennis is scouring through the depths of the internet, emailing people like, hey, can I get this photo of Nina? These are publicly available photos that you can just look up on. Anybody can go on Google right now, type in Nina Agdal, whoever, insert name, and there'll probably be a picture of her with them, because she has apparently just been with literally like hundreds of guys. So I think that's more of a reflection on her than it is on Dylan. I hate that argument when it's like, oh my God, like you're stalking her. Oh, he's screenshotting pictures off the internet. It literally takes not even a full second.
I can do it.
To press your fingers together like this, take a screenshot, and then upload. The whole process of screenshotting a photo to uploading the photo takes maybe 1 minute. So the idea that he's spending all this time, he's seeking these out, is pretty absurd in my opinion.
Yeah. And now there's a temporary restraining order with Agdal and Dylan Dennis.
Yeah.
I will end it there, man. I don't want. This has been a long episode, but exciting stuff. Toby, got anything else to add?
No, actually, the only other thing, I totally forgot to mention this, but I imagine I think Charles, it had to have been a headbutt, right? There's no way. I mean, maybe one of his sparring partners was like, I could see them at shoot to box, just like throwing elbows and stuff.
Yeah.
But I would imagine that bad of a cut, probably a headbutt or something, like an accidental clash of heads,
Yeah. That was bad. But
I just forgot
anyway,
to mention that,
we're out of here, guys. I hope you enjoyed. Peace out.
Peace.